Top 30 Iconic Quotes Movie. Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993. Mrs. Doubtfire, 1993, is a beloved family comedy that explores themes of love, parenting, and personal growth, anchored by Robin Williams' legendary performance. The story follows Daniel Hillard, a talented but irresponsible actor who struggles to balance his fun-loving nature with his responsibilities as a father. When his wife, Miranda, Sally Field, files for divorce and gains primary custody of their 3 children, Daniel goes to extraordinary lengths to stay close to his family, disguising himself as an elderly British nanny. Named Euphegenia Doubtfire, Daniel secures a job caring for his own kids. As Mrs. Doubtfire, he reconnects with his children while learning valuable lessons about responsibility and parenting. Meanwhile, hilarity ensues as he juggles his double life, often leading to laugh-out-loud moments, such as Mrs. Doubtfire's iconic and quat, run by fruiting and quat, or her face made of whipped cream. Underneath the humor, Mrs. Doubtfire delivers heartfelt messages about family, love, and the importance of personal growth. It's a story of a father willing to go to great lengths to be with his children, while also learning to be a better version of himself. With its mix of comedy, emotion, and timeless performances, the film remains a cherished classic. Mrs. Doubtfire, oh, as I hold this cold meat, I'm reminded of Winston. God rest his soul. Miranda, when did he pass on? Mrs. Doubtfire, 8 years ago, dear. This November. Miranda, what happened? Mrs. Doubtfire, he was quite fond of the drink. It was the drink that killed him. Miranda, how awful. He was in alcoholic. Mrs. Doubtfire, no, he was hit by a Guinness truck. So it was quite literally the drink that killed him. Mrs. Doubtfire, sink the sub, hide the weasel, park the porpoise, a bit of the old Humpty Dumpty, Little Jack Horny, the horizontal mambo, the bone dancer, Rumpelforeskin, baloney bop, a bit of the old cunning linguistics, stew. Mrs. Doubtfire, please. Mrs. Doubtfire, oh, I'm sorry, am I being a little graphic? I'm sorry, well, I hope you're up for a little competition. She's got a power tool in the bedroom, dear. It's her own personal jackhammer. She could break sidewalk with that thing. She uses it and the lights dim. It's like a prison movie. Amazed she hasn't chipped her teeth. Stew. About Daniel. What can I say, Ron? The guy's a loser. See ya, Mrs. Doubtfire, loser? Oh, yeah. Mrs. Doubtfire, oh, sir, I saw it. Some angry member of the kitchen staff. Did you not tip them? Oh, the terrorists. They ran that way. It was a run by fruiting. I'll get them, sir. Don't worry. Miranda, isn't he fabulous? Mrs. Doubtfire, if you like that handsome, rugged type. But personally I prefer short, furry and funny. Miranda, he just wants to go out and have a drink. I think that's pretty harmless, don't you? Mrs. Doubtfire, absolutely not, dear. Because they always have other intentions. Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, dear Mrs. Doubtfire, 2 months ago, my mom and dad decided to separate. Now they live in different houses. My brother Andrew says that we aren't to be a family anymore. Is this true? Did I lose my family? Is there anything I can do to get my parents back together? Sincerely, Katie McCormick, and quat, oh, my dear Katie. You know, some parents, when they're angry, they get along much better when they don't live together. They don't fight all the time, and they can become better people, and much better mummies and daddies. For you, and sometimes they get back together, and sometimes they don't, dear. And if they do, hello, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, Daniel, impersonating a British nanny, and quat, my first day as a woman and I'm already having hot flashes, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, it was a run by fruiting, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, if it's too hot, dear, just let it cool down, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, he broke my bag, the B*D, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, carpe dentum, seize the teeth, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, dear, I saw it. Some angry member of the kitchen staff. Did you not tip them? And quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, he was quite fond of the drink. It was the drink that killed him, and quat, how awful. Yes, he was hit by a Guinness truck. Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, I'm not who you think I am, and quat, Daniel Hillard, and quat, brace yourself. Effie, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, the whole time, and quat, Miranda. Hillard, and quat, no, dear, I don't need a hand, I need a face, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, she's got everything, including the E channel, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, I do voices, and quat, Daniel Hillard, and quat, we're his godmn kids too, and quat, asterisk Lydia Hillard, and quat, help is on the way, dear, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, what a lovely home you have. Did you decorate it yourself? And quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, my name is Elsie. I'm the hostess with the mostess, and quat, Mrs. Doubtfire, and quat, boys and girls, I think it's time to move away from the animal portion of the program, and quat, Daniel Hillard.